Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion plays The Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. 42 wins in a row. Douglas Adams smiling down on us from outer space. N6Q3XWKX. And you know what? I think it's an interesting time to reflect. When we lost the last streak, it's devastating. And part of the reason it's devastating is because, like, there's just like a simple temporal factor involved, right? When you've won for 61 days in a row or something like that, when you lose, it hurts. Because you're like, it's gonna take me minimum 2 months to get back to that level, right? If you lose one, it resets all your progress. I'm finally starting, and I will go back for that rock. I'm finally starting to be like, you know what? We've rebuilt our house. It feels like sometimes you ever have like, you ever get involved with a chore that you know is gonna take a staggeringly long time? Like, or a good example maybe is like for schoolwork. Maybe you've got a huge project, right? The kind of project, well, I'll tell you. I took an iOS app development class, and essentially the entire class, like 100% of our grade, was based on a project that was assigned in week 3 and was due in week 12, and you just had to build an app. It wasn't, you know, they weren't anticipating you would build like the next, you know, Shazam or something like that. Really, I'm pretty sure if you built that app that made it look like you were drinking a beer on your screen, you probably would have gotten an A+. And, you know, you're working in pairs or by yourself, but I was working in a group. And me and my partner, you know, we really got grinding on it early, and we were, you know, we had a Slack, we had a Trello board, we had all of the stuff pretending we were like real programmers, and I guess in some way we were real programmers because we built a game. But doing the work early, we suffered. We suffered a lot. All of our classmates were like, you know, it's week 8. You got 1 month left to do it. They're like, we ain't even gotten started yet. I barely even know, like, what my idea is at this point. I'm gonna go back and go to this curse room real quick. We had a lot of, you know, we spent a lot of time early that a lot of people didn't spend and felt like we were losing out. But then when week 11 rolled around and all we had to do was, like, iron out a couple of bugs, and everybody else was like, I think I'm gonna fail the class. That was good stuff. That's how I feel right now. You know, we've more or less, and let's not get overconfident, but we've more or less gotten through that that period where, you know, you're really paying the price of being early, and that time investment is now banked. You know, we're kind of sitting pretty now. I hope to be at least. So it feels good. It feels good. Moving on though. Still got a lot of wins to go until we get to, you know, the level we were at, but it's exciting either way. Stats are very good on this run. And I will say, I'm very, very thankful we just got the rosary, because I'm looking at my stats, and I'm like, you know, without the rosary, we'd be fine, but we'd be a little bit less fine. 1 HP is not fantastic long-term, or even short-term. In fact, maybe even it's more dangerous short-term. You don't see this too much. Using the rocks in an Isaac fight. I feel like I'm playing Minecraft Dungeons against the final boss here. But, and we know we're not getting HP here. We'll just head down to the next floor because we got good arcade chances, and everything's looking pretty solid. Do want to open that for sure. Today is, Wednesday. Really, like, I've reworked a little bit, and I know I've brought this up a lot, so I apologize. I've reworked a little bit my work week, because quite frankly, it happens, right? You just get too busy. I don't like to say no to things, and moreover, I really don't like to, I don't like to axe a project. Let's put it that way. Once I like, do something, it becomes part of my ledger, and I want to keep doing it forever. Because I'm a routine-based guy. You know, that's the reason, like, Northernlion Tries has already, in my opinion, been more successful than Let's Look At. And it's just, it's a weird rebranding that doesn't really matter. Like, the rebranding was not for any particular reason except to say that I think Northernlion Tries sounds a lot more elegant than Let's Look At, which is just sort of a... Look, if you have nostalgia for the name Let's Look At, that's very flattering. But I think, like, agnostic of how the videos turned out, the name was kind of, you know? But, you know, I set myself a goal, and I was like, it's gonna be hard, and we'll probably miss sometimes, but I want to do one Northernlion Tries every single day. That gives me a scaffolding to, like, aim for. We maybe shouldn't have taken this early, but we'll see what we get from the boss before we get too bent out of shape here. And, you know, we've missed literally one day, and then on one day I did a top 10 best of Northernlion Tries from the first 100, which actually took more work than making a Northernlion Tries. So we've really missed one day in 7 months. With Let's Look At, here's what happened. And I think this is why, you know, I benefit very much from structure. And I hope that that'll come to be clear over the course of this anecdote. With Let's Look At, it was like, you know, I'd like to do maybe 3, 5, somewhere in there a week. But I really only do them when I have a combination of time and interest, you know? So I wouldn't dig for a game too much. I would just be like, oh, this thing came out that I'm interested in. Let's check it out. Not really too interested in that, for the record. We should be totally okay here. So what that led to is, like, some weeks I would produce, like, you know, 7 Let's Look Ats. Because there'd be a backlog of interesting stuff that I would be stoked to check out. And I had a little bit of free time, so it made sense. Wow, I didn't think you would get bodied that quickly. And then we would go, like, months without another one. Because I'm not advocating to make yourself so busy that you know, you don't even have time to think. But if you wait till you have time to do something, you ain't ever gonna have time to do it in many situations, you know? If you're always putting off something that should be done, the odds are that you're gonna take too long to get to it because you settle into a routine. So that's why I think that Northernlion Tries, you know, not every video is a winner, but that's something I've allowed myself to accept. Some of the, like, without Northernlion Tries, we probably wouldn't have ended up playing Monster Train. Man, I really wish I saved Hangman here. Without Northernlion Tries, we probably would have never played One Step from Eden. We probably never would have played Gunfire Reborn, which is going to end up being maybe a series at some point. Don't take that as, like, gospel, I'm just saying. You know, we've played a lot of good stuff as a result of that, and that's exciting. It's good stuff. Anyway, how do I feel about this run? It did get better. We got some good items, and really Stigmata's HP upgrade is probably the single most important thing that we got there. If we can get some keys, I feel like this one could pog up pretty quickly. We don't have a deal with the Devil Precedent, which is interesting too, but yeah, anyway, I've reworked my week a little bit, so, you know, I was getting ground down on Twitch and on YouTube, not in a psychological way, but just in, like, an overwork way. So, you know, yesterday was Tuesday, post-Unity instead of streaming. Malf and I recorded a little bit of baseball. So it's the same amount of work, but now on Friday, when we normally, you know, sit there and record 7 straight episodes of baseball, which is like, you know, at 40 minutes an episode is like almost 5 hours of straight Super Mega Baseball 3 plus banter. Plus, like, I do check the wire that day, and then I gotta use that day to build up at least a 2-day backlog for everything that doesn't have a backlog because of the fact that, you know, I take Saturday off, so, oh baby, there we go. Now I got a little bit more freedom on Friday to do the other YouTube stuff and stay ahead of things without, you know, being like, I literally don't have time to do anything, you know? So, it's a positive thing. Plus, it gave me another couple of days off from Dark Souls 2, which, the importance of which cannot be overstated. I don't think that Dark Souls 2 is a bad game. And I don't think that's controversial. I think most people seem to agree that it's not a bad game. But I will say, if you want to know a little bit about my history with Dark Souls 2, you're gonna laugh, and if you're, you know, I've been doing this for a long time. most of you have not been around the whole time. There are a lot of people that have been around for the most of it, but most of the people watching this video, maybe you found me 2014, 2016, you know, last month, 2 years ago, you know, various different numbers of years. Anyway, probably like one of the first, literally the first series I started when I went full-time on YouTube was Dark Souls 1. And I'll tell you, yeah, we'll just take it. It's an interesting story. I remember being in Korea, you know, I was an English teacher in Korea, for those of you who don't have any context there. And I saw, like, a giant bomb quick look of Dark Souls for the 360 and PS3, because this was way before the PC version was even an apple in Miyazaki's eye. And I was like, you know, I think that would be an amazing game to play on the channel. And if you weren't there, you may not believe this, but sincerely, Dark Souls was a niche title. And I know you're like, yeah, I know, because Demon Souls wasn't that popular, but Dark Souls was huge. Dark Souls got huge, but it really didn't happen until, like, a year after its release, essentially. Like, when I saw this was probably, like, October of 2011, would be my guess. I got back home in, you know, December of 2011. Oh, you're still alive over here. And, you know, I had to buy another 360 because I fried my 360 in Korea, plugging it into the wrong outlet because they have different voltage there. I had to buy a capture card, and I got set up. And still, like, by the time I got that done, 2 months after the release of Dark Souls 1, almost nobody was playing it on YouTube. I mean, when I say almost nobody, there's probably like 24 people. But compared to, like, whenever a game comes out, especially a Souls game, when those come out now, it's like YouTube and Twitch are just like, Souls Marathon, I'm playing all the Souls games. Look at this hitless run, bossless, 100% boss. And, you know, it's out of control. So, really, like, it was a niche title, and it became much more popular when the PC version came out, which is very sensible because the PC version is, especially with the 60 FPS and, like, all the fixes, I don't remember. It's just called DS Fix, but it was a user-made patch that actually made the PC version playable. and more than playable, like, really good, actually. That's when it became, like, that was the seed of it becoming one of the biggest gaming franchises on the planet, right? But I really, for a while, you'll laugh because I'm not that good at Dark Souls, but there was a time where it was kind of like, you know, I was up there with the Dark Souls content creators in the pre-Indie Mouse days and even the you know, Vadi Vidya days and stuff like that. Man, I don't want to say I was before, you know, Vadi Vidya, but we were like, I think I may have played Dark Souls before. And that's not bragging, I'm just setting the stage for context here. How did I get on this? I don't remember. Oh, no, I remember. We're talking about Dark Souls 2, which is a good sign because everything must be going well if we're able to banter this much. So yeah, so, like, I was kind of like a known Dark Souls 1 content creator, and Bandai Namco gave me and Josh early access to Dark Souls 2, along with a handful of other people. You know, I mean, by a handful, I mean probably like 100 or 200 of, you know, gaming industry critics and professionals. And we worked our way through the game together, which was a nice, like, bonding moment. And also, if I can be a little braggadocious, also a moment of, like, look, we made it. You know, like, 4 years ago when I started this thing, everybody was like, why are you wasting your time with this? And now we got access early to one of the most hotly anticipated sequels of the year, you know? So it was kind of a nice moment. And I'm willing to say that I think that maybe biased me. And made me appreciate the circumstances surrounding Dark Souls 2 more than I should have. Because I really did hold the opinion for a couple of years. And I do want to say, I didn't, like, play Dark Souls 2 once and then just go, like, this is the best thing ever. But I played Dark Souls 2 through at least, you know, 7 or 8 times. It used to be like a little weekend project. I'd be like, you know, I got like 15 hours with nothing to do. Let's just do a quick little Dark Souls 2 run. I will take this. I don't think we need this right now. I think that's ill-advised. Anyway, so I really, for a long time, have held the opinion that Dark Souls 2 was the best Souls game. Even more so than Dark Souls 1 or 3, for that matter. Let's leave Bloodborne and Sekiro out of it for now. But I will say, having played through Dark Souls 1 Remastered, Bloodborne in, like, 2018, Sekiro in 2019, and then Dark Souls 3 this year as well, and now playing through Dark Souls 2, I would feel comfortable for sure saying it is the worst Souls game. And that's not controversial. And that's almost why I bring it up. Is like, why did you take, you know, 20 minutes or 15 minutes to come to this conclusion here? Well, because sometimes I think that if something's obvious, people don't want to say it because they're worried it makes them look like not revolutionary. And maybe that's where I came from with Dark Souls 2 to some extent. But now, playing it through again, and especially having played through the other games so recently for comparison, I'm like, you know what? People were right about this one, and I was wrong. Dark Souls 2, not a bad game. I definitely would not say underrated. Like, I do not think that that is an underrated, like, gem. I think that people, to be honest, maybe rate it pretty fairly. And you gotta remember, like, the reason it gets a lot of heat is because, like, Dark Souls 1 is probably, from the 2010s, it wouldn't surprise me if Dark Souls 1 is, like, maybe the most respected game. I don't know, it depends. I run in different circles, you know? Maybe, like, The Last of Us would be up there, but I don't really play that many, like, cinematic-driven... Well, I mean, I play FMV games, but you know what I mean. I don't play that many, like, AAA cover shooters. Not to insult Naughty Dog. I don't know, like, you know, Telltale's Walking Dead Season 1 for sure is up there, but it's kind of like the circumstances surrounding Telltale have kind of put a slight damper on that, I suppose. I think Dark Souls 1 has got to be up there. Ooh. Yeah, that's good. We needed that. Or could use some HP, let's put it that way. We haven't really taken a lot of dumb damage on this run, but still, HP is just low by circumstance. Shop's gonna be amazing for us here. So it's the same reason, like, you know, is... Well, let me try to find a better example here. You know what? Here's a good example. Well, no, because I was gonna go down the Star Wars road, and I'm like, maybe I don't want to do that. Not because it's controversial, because I'm like... You'll understand when I find it, okay? I'm trying to... There's got to be a good example here. You know what is a good example? John Wick 2. This is the perfect example. I apologize if you haven't seen the Wickiverse. Get maybe a luck upgrade? No. For one, I think we don't take it, quite frankly. I don't think it's worth it. I think we'd rather build some HP right now. So John Wick 1 is a lot like Dark Souls 1, you know? Nobody really knew. Keanu Reeves was kind of a little respected, but we're a long way away, you know, in 2014 or whatever from the release of The Matrix and the release of even further back of, like, you know, Speed and Point Break and etc., etc. So, you know, nobody really knew. We'll just use that right away. I think this is a perfect opportunity to just go hard on the Spirit Hearts. And maybe 7-cent items move the needle for us a little bit, sure. Overpaid for a card, but life goes on. But then John Wick 1 came out, and people were like, this is great. This is fresh. This is cool stuff. John Wick 2 came out. People are going to disagree with me on this a little bit, for the record, but John Wick 2 came out. I really feel like a lot of people, excuse me, Ace of Clubs, you're supposed to be another 2 of Diamonds. I meant to buy the Spirit Heart. Hold on, I'm getting distracted, thinking about John Wick. Okay, another 2 of Diamonds. Well, we might as well try this item on for size. Mom's Key, do it well worth it, and let's buy the key, and let's get out of here. Okay. We haven't even been to our item room. What the heck? John Wick 2 came out. And it's like more of the same, but out of the John Wick trilogy, soon to be quadrilogy, it's kind of the odd one out, you know? John Wick 1 set the stage. People have fond memories of it because it's A, pretty great, but secondarily was also like the introduction, and it's so novel to see like this kind of tactical combat in a movie instead of just like click click ba 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 click click ba ba ba, you know. It's a much like it's a novel fight style. And then John Wick 3, if you haven't seen it, I apologize. It's not spoilers at all. John Wick 3 is basically like they realize what people like about the first two movies. At least this is my take on it. And we're going to crank that up to 11. People disagree with me. Sometimes people are like, John Wick 3 got ridiculous. That's exactly what I like about it. I genuinely think John Wick 3 is a contender for like one of the best action movies ever made. Full stop. The plot is insane, but it's insane in like I mean, here's the I talk about this from time to time. This is an episode, by the way, where apparently we are going to have literally zero discussion about Isaac whatsoever. So I hope you enjoy it. A lot of people seem to believe, or seem to have the opinion, let's not say believe, because it's kind of insulting to them. They seem to have the opinion that the number one ideal aspiration a movie should aim for is to not be implausible in the least. If something's implausible, it either immediately gets written down as like a plot hole, or alternatively, it better be in like a fantasy world where you're like, okay, well, now I can, because magic exists, I guess I could accept this. Or alternatively, this is the worst for me, and I apologize if this rubs you the wrong way. But when there's like something aberrant in the story, and then people are immediately like, it couldn't just be a choice. It has to be. Now you got fan theories. Even like now, sometimes when shows end, like have like a definitive ending, there will still be fan theories about what's happening. And I'm like, if you enjoyed making it, don't get me, and enjoyed talking about it, it's time well spent. But on the other hand, they showed you what happened. You don't need a fan theory. You could write fan fiction, that's fine. But like a fan theory is like theory disproven. They got the bag, and then they went on to try to make that Star Wars movie, but then they left the Star Wars movie, you know. Anyway. So that's I always find like, you know, in John Wick 3, there's some truly insane stuff that is implausible in the real world. Now, if that takes you out of the John Wickiverse, I do have to say that all of the events of John Wick 1 are also incredibly implausible. He's paying for stuff with gold pirate coins. There's a hotel operating, you know, within New York City that is a haven for contract killers. Like, how does that even work when it comes to taxes? I don't even understand. But it's just because John Wick 3 is a little bit more openly implausible. People are like, now this is ridiculous. So I really feel like, you know, Dark Souls 3 is like John Wick 3. From Software looked at everything people liked about Dark Souls 1 and 2 and didn't like, and said, we're going to make a perfect distillation. I think there's criticisms to be made for Dark Souls 3, but after playing them all, and I haven't finished Dark Souls 2 again yet, but after playing through them all recently, I think I will acquiesce to the idea that Dark Souls 3 is probably the best of the main series Souls games. An opinion that I was very resistant to for quite some time. Hold on. If we're going to take two things, and we are, we have to take duality. The other one would in my opinion, I sincerely think we take the damage upgrade here. And you know what? I think we actually go a step further. I think we take all three, which also gives us Bookworm. And we shouldn't have to be too concerned about this, I hope. So anyway, that's my half-an-hour discussion on the comparisons between John Wick and Dark Souls. What's my actual favorite not main series, but Souls game in general? Dude, I really love the bosses and the environments in Bloodborne. But I also feel, and you can quote me on this, and maybe I'll be wrong in a couple of years, but I was wrong about Dark Souls 2, I'll give you that. But I really feel like Sekiro is still underrated. It got, really, my case that it's underrated got a hole punched in it when it won Game of the Year at the Game Awards. But the Game Awards aren't the freaking Oscars. It's just another, basically, another media outlet. You know, a lot of stuff won Game of the Year last year. Sekiro won maybe like, you know, one major Game of the Year. Disco Elysium won like 15. The Outer Wilds won like, you know, 11. I'm not saying that I mean, I haven't really played enough of either of those games to say Sekiro is better or worse, you know? I'm just saying that it's not like it's the consensus best game of 2019. Probably shouldn't have made that move there. Dude, we have beaten the odds so much here. It's getting ridiculous. I'm like, please just give me an opportunity to use my Joker card. I really feel like the things people criticize about Sekiro kind of annoy me. And that's not to say they're invalid, but I'm like, it's the same way that I'm like, here's my very flippant response to the Sekiro criticism. The number one criticism about Sekiro is people are like, well, you know, you can't play it through with multiple play styles because there's not, you know, multiple different weapon types you can use and yada yada yada. That's true, but I see you all. You know, when I see you in my chat, you're like, literally every time you start a Souls game, you're like, I'm gonna rush down this club, and it scales at A with strength and B with dex. You play, not everybody, but like 90% of the time, people play these games in the exact same way to begin with. But just like not having the option to play them differently kind of rubs them the wrong way. But you also have to accept that because of the fact that the game is forced to be played with, you know, that just sword style, more or less, and a couple of shurikens, I guess, or like weapon arts thrown in, it allows, really, in my opinion, the boss fights to be more tightly designed. You know, instead of having to balance the boss between like, oh, like what if you're a caster build? What if you're a faith build? We need to make sure that every build can, you know, make it through here. They can really hone in on, like, we're gonna make this an exciting, you know, sword v sword kind of lightsaber fight. And I feel like it doesn't get enough credit for that, quite frankly, from the, you know, from mass audiences at least. I mean, like, especially, I've come to like, I liked Sekiro a lot upon playing it last year. I've come to enjoy it more upon playing the other Souls games, because I'm like, man, I'm not saying every boss in Sekiro is a bop. But there's a lot of bad bosses in Dark Souls. There's a lot of amazing bosses. Like, dude, playing through Dark Souls 3, almost every DLC boss. Every DLC boss in Dark Souls 3, except the man and the wolf, is, like, pretty amazing. Sister Fried is great. Gale is great. Like, there's a lot of good stuff going on. Gale might be one of the best fights in Souls history, right? And Bloodborne has some amazing bosses too, don't get me wrong. But like every single one of those also has like a, we should keep our Joker card, one sec. Also has like living failures. Dark Souls 2 is the worst, so far, I'll admit. You know, but every Dark Souls game has like a, at least 3 bosses that are like, it's just a lot of basic enemies and we play music in like a weird kind of like klezmer while they come at you. And then maybe like one of the enemies is slightly taller and you're like, ooh, I bet that's the real boss and I gotta be scared of him. And then when he walks over to you, you hit him and he dies and you go, oh no, okay, he's just tall, I guess. But every boss in Sekiro has that pageantry, dude. I'm just gonna level with you. Not sure I really like any of these all that much, but we'll take this and see how it serves us. This is at least the most interesting. So I don't know if I would say that Sekiro is my favorite Souls game. That does to me feel almost like a little bit of a contrarian take just for the sake of being contrarian. But I would say there's a chance. I gotta play it through again. Like both Sekiro, Bloodborne, and Dark Souls 3 are probably top of the list. I do love Dark Souls 1. bizarrely, I would probably put Dark Souls 1 closer to, like, favorite games all time. But in terms of, like, evaluating them in 2020, based on their raw mechanics and, like, I don't want to say objective, but you know what I mean, right? This is not that good, actually. I feel like our luck stat is not good enough to justify that, really. We're not going to get that many chests on the next floor. So I've got, like, a lot of fond memories. It's not even nostalgia, really, because the game is amazing. But I will say that, I mean, maybe it's the textbook definition of nostalgia. Whenever I think of Dark Souls 1, I'm always like, Undeadburg, the Asylum, Ornstein and Smo, and Orlando, you know? And then when I get to the part of the game that's like Lost Izalith, Bed of Chaos, Demon Ruins, I'm like, New Londo Ruins, just get me out. Just get me out as fast as possible. Anyway, so this whole episode, I can't believe it. We've talked about Dark Souls, but anyway, so I've been reworking my my work schedule a little. Definitely, like, part of it is that I know for a fact, like, sometimes I don't even notice it sometimes, but I'm reading my comments and responding more, which is why a lot of you have gotten very snarky replies, because sometimes you have the audacity, not in Isaac so much, it's mostly a Monster Train, but people will, like, green text me. They'll be like, says X at 9 minutes, and then 39 minutes and 30 seconds into the run does Y. But then they'll have, like, a spelling mistake in their comment, so I get to respond and be like, you know, green text A demands perfection. Green text B makes a spelling mistake. I mean, come on, what are we supposed to believe here? But the other thing is, like, sometimes, you know, I go into my comments and I see somebody post something like, this man uploaded 9 videos today. What the heck? And it's true. I mean, it's misleading. They're not 9 bespoke videos made for YouTube. But, you know, on, like, let's talk about, like, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You got baseball, you got Isaac, you got a Northernlion Tries, you got Monster Train, you got the Golden Goblet, and you got GeoGuessr. You know? That's the content made for YouTube. And then you got a little Unity VOD, you got a Dark Souls 2 VOD. Maybe you got, like, an NLSS VOD, depending on the day. Maybe you got, like, a Landlord Super, although those are exhausted at this point. Maybe you got a Clubhouse Games, like a random Twitch VOD. Like, we're doing a lot of content. And that it's literally impossible to maintain. The vast majority of people on YouTube, I'm not saying I'm the hardest worker on YouTube, but I might have the highest raw output in terms of, like, videos made for YouTube per day times the amount of time I've been on the platform. Like, there's some people on YouTube that, you know, they make like 12 videos on one day, and the next day they make 3, and then they take 6 years off and don't return for a while because they're like, I was burned out. Something's broken in my brain that's like, simple task, I'll do that all day. And then, like, it's a Skinner box. Every time I get a video done, it's like gratification, gratification, gratification. But literally, if I audited my time honestly, I don't think I have enough time to do that right now, but I'm doing it right now anyway, so some things are suffering. But when we have our baby, oh my god, it's gonna be... Of all the things that people are like, you're gonna have to adjust to, one of the ones for me that's very real is, like, it's gonna take me probably, like, a couple of years to figure out, what a terrible selection here for the record. It's probably gonna take me a couple of years to figure out what my work schedule is like. That might seem like it's too long, but it took me a few years to figure out what my work schedule was like when I started doing YouTube. I mean, this will blow your mind. When I started doing YouTube full-time, it was the winter of 2011. And by the way, I know you're like, why not fight Mega Satan? I'm actually just unenthused with our damage right now, so I'm I'm just gonna see if we get some, you know, chests. But if we don't get some chests, I might just roll this to Blue Baby, because, like, Mega Satan has taken me by surprise a few times in the past. At that time, I did 1 to 2 videos a day. And I'm here to tell you, I don't want to rat on other YouTubers, but I will because it makes me look better in this situation. If you watch YouTubers who make 1 to 2 unedited gameplay videos a day, and they are, you know, not 3 hours long each, they could be working harder. I'm not saying you should go in their comments and harass them. I'm just saying if they upload, 45 minutes of content a day and it's unedited, because editing could take, double that time or 20 times that time, depending on what you're making, right? And they might stream as well in the background. But if they're like, I'm so busy, I have to make a video for this game today, and it's literally just turn it on and turn it off, they could work harder. I know, because I've been there. And then at some point, I realized, like, well, having 10 hours a day to, like, play Team Fortress 2 if I want to, that's kind of nice. But as, like, an adult, I'm not sure if that's what I want for myself. I started working a little bit harder, and, it really took me... for a long time, we were doing like 3 videos a day. And we could go to like 4 videos a day. Then we had GeoGuessr on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Then we had baseball. And then we had Golden Goblet. And, it takes some time. And then we, purge something that maybe we were doing in the past. And then we add something else. And, you get the idea, right? It's a constant, like, iterative process. So I imagine... I ask for your preemptive patience and understanding as I figure it out. Like, I'll tell you. I'm glad you're here. Don't get me wrong. And I think over the years, my actions speak for themselves. YouTube is very important to me. As a lot of people have, YouTube's gone through some rocky times. There's no doubt about that. We'll take this. And a lot of my colleagues that either we know or have never spoken to but are aware of have basically abandoned YouTube in favor of, Twitch or, another streaming platform, or, you get the idea. I haven't done that, We've kept our output consistent and... kept our head down and gotten some work done. But 100%, my daughter's my #1 priority. Even now. So it doesn't mean that I don't love you guys as well. When October rolls around, you might see a little sporadic output for a bit. Just know that I'm not grinding WoW Classic in the background. I got some important stuff. Anyway, it was a good episode. We didn't talk about Isaac at all. We got 43 wins. For now, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. Clicking the like button is the single best way to help me out as a content creator. If you're already subscribed, just click the like button if you enjoyed the episode. It gives me a little algorithmic turbo power to keep growing and stay steady on the platform. For now, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. See ya!